What can we learn and what should be your takeaways from this whole Russian hacking situation the country's dealing with right now? These are things we have to pay attention to in the preparedness community because it could directly affect you one of these days in the future. So stick around for the rest of the video. We're going to talk about this whole Russian hacking scenario, how there's a history of things like this happening from the past, and what we're going to have to prepare for here in the future. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and today we're talking about this Russian hacking situation, or aka Sunburst. This is a situation that we need to pay attention to here in the preparedness community because it could directly affect us in many ways that we prepare for right now. And I know that this is something that you are probably aware of, but our infrastructure is always under attack, whether or not it's from a coronal mass ejection, an EMP, or if it's from a cyber hack of some sort that can actually jeopardize the security of our infrastructure from within. So if you're preparing for things that could possibly send the grid back down to the Stone Age, hit the subscribe button below because we need to keep preparing because so many different things could occur that could eventually take out our power. Now, this is the main reason you need to prepare for what's happening regarding this whole hacking situation. There's a lot of other things that could occur due to this whole scenario, but the thing I want you to pay attention to most is how fragile our electrical grid is and how easily our system could go down if somebody decides to push it to that level, okay? So, quick backstory based on what just happened here with the whole Sunburst situation. Okay, Orion Software is a software by SolarWinds, a company that basically puts together software for IT networking and monitoring purposes. And they are used heavily throughout the entire world. So basically what happened was some malicious code was inserted into one of their software updates, and any of the entities using this Orion program were susceptible to receiving this malicious code. Well, in our situation, and this is me trying to make it layman's terms and make it as easy to digest as possible, the large swath of the US government uses this software, okay? As well as the private sector, as well as all over the planet, people use this software to monitor and network their IT systems, okay? So, what does that mean? Well, this code was downloaded by people through an update, and by downloading it, it gave these hackers access to information, and this information could be very confidential, this information could be very valuable, this information could be very private, and this is all being accessed now by anyone who, wanted to on the other side of this hack. Now, here's what we have to keep an eye on, okay? So the agencies affected by this hack currently are the Homeland Security, the Energy Department, the Institution of Health, as well as, the Treasury and Commerce Department, okay? All of those departments have confirmed this breach, at least when it comes to our government. Now, the CDC, the Justice Department, and the State Department all use the same software. So it's very possible that they could easily be affected by the same situation. Interesting, isn't it? How all these different entities are being affected right now when all the information that's being put out there for the public is very hard to understand in the sense of all the confusion and everything related to everything happening around the world during our current crisis. So that is all on the docket. That's something we need to pay attention to because these hacks have directly affected government entities that eventually could see this as an actual act of aggression rather than it just being a intel phishing situation, okay? So, moving on from there. The Electricity Subsector Coordinating Council, okay, or the ESCC, actually had a meeting after this hack situation occurred to discuss the basically frailty of the electrical system and the power energy network here in this country, and had to come together and basically talk about their fail-safe plans, their fallback plans, and what they're going to do about the security situation that they're dealing with right now. Well, that being said, Dragos, which is a cybersecurity entity, a company that provides cybersecurity for all types of entities out there, says that they are aware that some of the energy sectors out there, some of the privately owned sectors, have been affected by this hack too. They're compromised through this hack. And it's something that they're working on right now to identify who exactly has been compromised and what the extent of this hack is in the sense of what it's capable of, okay? So, what you should have taken from that is that all over the place, our infrastructure is going to be possibly affected by this hack. The US Energy Department was targeted and hacked by these people, okay? That's huge, not just based on our electrical grid, but they also manage things like our nuclear weapons stockpile. That being said, the cybersecurity firm in charge of a lot of the security out there around the entire country, Dragos, is saying they know for a fact that some of these private sector entities that provide power to the population have been in fact hacked and have been affected, okay? So major entities related to our power infrastructure are now compromised. This is very important. Keep in mind that there's a precedent set here for hacking to target our infrastructure. It's been happening for decades now. The most recent situation was actually in March 2019. In March 2019, the US infrastructure was hacked in many ways, and there was reports of operators at power stations losing communication between remote power generation stations for minutes at a time for 10 straight hours. And basically, after they were feeling there was some sort of a situation there regarding network errors and software complications, it turns out actually they were hacked. So this all is happening constantly, okay? And even as recent as March 2019, the power grid was under attack in the sense of hacking. These hacks are becoming more sophisticated, they're becoming more malicious, and the people who are behind them, I'm sure, as you know, are leaving a trail of breadcrumbs. It's kind of like when you think about any sci-fi movie, when they leave a tracking beacon on a spaceship so that they can follow it back to wherever it came from and then deal with the problem that's there. That's the situation you're going to have here, because even if this malware is removed and even if this malicious code is pulled out, there is now access to these internal systems to where I'm sure other backdoors have been installed ever since the beginning of this whole situation. Why do you need to prepare for it? Why do you need to pay attention to this? We're preppers. What do we need to talk about cybersecurity for? Why do we need to talk about hacking? Why do we need to worry about what's happening in the sense of government agencies getting their intel stolen? Well, first off, obviously, this could create a situation involving real conflict. Now, do I think that's highly likely? Probably not right yet, okay? I don't think this is going to push things into that territory necessarily. Usually you see things like sanctions and you see things like diplomats being thrown out of their embassies or whatever it might be before you see anything else like that in regards to these cyber situations. However, for you as a prepper and for myself, I'm most concerned about the fact that the infrastructure of our power grid is completely fragile and easily accessed by these hackers. And we're not just talking about the Department of Homeland Security, we're not talking about the Treasury and Commerce Department, we're talking about the US Department of Energy being hacked by these people. And we're talking about one of the largest cybersecurity firms in the country saying they know for a fact that some private sector electricity, power, and energy companies have in fact been compromised from this hack. So, do they know yet exactly how far this hack can go and what it can do? Not necessarily. Do they know yet exactly how to extract all of the code that's been put in there maliciously? Probably not. And this is something that's been happening since March of this year. So this has had a long time to develop and evolve and give people access to the information they wanted and access to these programs and infrastructures and networks to where backdoors could easily have been installed and other little pieces of breadcrumbs or tracking beacons, if you want to call them that, are already in place, I almost guarantee you, okay? So, what do? Just like you're going to prepare for an EMP, just like you're preparing for a CME, you have to prepare for this grid to go down. It might never, okay? And obviously we hope it doesn't, because this is not the point of what we do here. We don't want these things to happen, but we have to assume that there's a possibility they could. And the more and more these cyber attacks occur, the more likely eventually you'll see the power grid not sustain its ability to provide power to all of us, okay? And it's being proven over and over again just how susceptible our grid is to attack of any kind, even if it's physical. But these cyber threats are much worse because sometimes, like in this case, they stay hidden since March of this year and then suddenly show up here in December. That's a lot of time to get things done if you're trying to make things go bad. So, prepare for your power to go out, as we already do, as you already do, but these are just reminders of why it's so important. It's not just about that 1 in a million chance of a solar flare hitting us and frying the grid. It's not about that 1 in a million chance that some country decides to go rogue and detonate an EMP in the atmosphere. It's about the fact that this is actually an active situation where people are trying to gain access to our power grid, and there's really no reason to unless you have malicious intent. And we have to keep that in mind, because even if this escalates to some kind of a hot conflict at some point in time, it's going to start with something else that's going to be negative for you and I, most likely. So keep that in mind, keep preparing, find your alternative sources of energy, and make sure you can keep your lights on if things go down, okay? Do what you can in that regard. Now, if you have any questions at all about this whole Russian hack thing, leave them in the comments below. I guarantee you, at least 95.278%. It's a good number. Remember it. I guarantee you there's that many of you in the comments section that are actually more technologically inclined than even I am. However, I understand the basic verbiage of what's happening here, but I'm sure some of you actually understand every little piece of what's actually occurring and can help answer those questions down in the comments. So please make sure you do that. I appreciate every one of you that comes in with great advice, great tips, and great information. You know what? Sometimes I get corrected here on this channel. Correct me if I'm wrong about anything that I said here, because I want everyone to get the best information they can. So, without anything else to say about what we can learn and what we need to do in preparation for this whole Russian hacking situation, and the fact that we need to prepare for disruption in the sense of our power grid, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.